Okay, so let's not have a little fun. Not like we haven't been having fun already, but
At
like
all.
I think it's really fun to kind of like, in the 360 review, not only do you get great feedback, but you also get, what are your challenges? That's how they mask
Right.
weaknesses,
Yes.
right?
Right.
So Aileen, be brutally honest. What is Glenda's most annoying habit?
Oh God, I'm ready. I'm
By the way,
ready. I'm
I've been
ready.
dying for this question the
Oh,
whole time.
Look, I'm going to have to say, I don't find Glenda's habits annoying, but I will say the following. I'm going to set the tone and the scenario for this so you guys can understand where I'm coming from. So Glenda and I rented an Airbnb to go to a podcast conference, right? Because we knew shit about
Oh, shit, she
podcasts.
knows what's coming.
We knew shit about podcasts. It's like, and of course, Glenda's like, let's go to this conference. I'm like, yes, you're absolutely right. I researched it. Like, okay, let's go. So we go to LA or where the fuck it was. And Glenda rents an Airbnb and whatnot. And I'm like, thank you, Flacco, so much. And we get to this place that wasn't as promoted on
false
on
advertising
said
for
website.
sure. False
And so,
advertising
but
for sure.
whatever. We get in there, and Glenda's like, oh, like, I'm going to take this bedroom. I'm like, okay, yeah, I really need to take the, how about you take this other bedroom? Like, okay, but why are you saying, like, why? Like, this one is like really nice. She's like, oh, it's, there's a lot of windows there and there's not much privacy. So if a serial killer comes in, clearly they're going to murder the person in that room first. I kid you not, this was in all seriousness. And I'm like, well, that's good to know where I stand. Thank you for letting me get murdered first, but thank you. This is not made up. This literally happened. And I'm like, okay, I'll take one for the team. And if I get killed, I'm going to come back and haunt the hell out of you for the rest of your life.
She did say that. She did say that.
That's pretty funny. That's
so
pretty
Glenda's
funny.
a little paranoid when it comes to germs and serial killers.
I mean,
I'm the biggest scaredy cat
right?
you'll find. I'm the biggest scaredy cat you'll find. So we walked into this house and I saw the 2 bedrooms. And to Eileen's point, yes, it was not as described. The pictures were not. Clearly, there was some random people who commented all the great reviews because they were not great. And when I saw that room, I'm like, there's no way in fucking hell that I'm going to sleep here. I literally will not be able to sleep. And Aileen is just so cool and she doesn't give a fuck about anything. And she's like, I'm like, oh, she can handle it. I'm like, I'm taking this one.
She can be murdered. She'll
probably
handle
thought you
that
had
well.
I think she probably thought that you had a better shot at killing the serial killer, because I actually believe that. I actually believe that
So.
you
I'm
will.
like, she can defend herself better. She's the
Yeah.
baddie. Like, I
Right.
will like crumble up and be like, ah.
She'll share a meme, like, look at this, laugh, don't kill. There's reason to live.
Leave the puppies.
That's hilarious.
I don't know if Glenda can actually do this, but let's see. So Glenda, stop being nice for a second. And what do you find insufferable about Aileen?
Honestly, truly, there is nothing insufferable. There really isn't.
Right.
There really isn't. There isn't anything insufferable. But I will say, and it's funny that she just mentioned how picky I am with presentations and even memes. My thing that drives me crazy is, and anybody who's worked with me, who's worked on my teams, who's worked for me, with me, alongside me, knows that I am a fucking pain in the ass when it comes to slides.
Yes.
Consistency in fonts, in font styles, in font sizes, in spacing, in alignment. I don't know if I'm borderline OCD. I don't know. Maybe I am and I didn't know it. But little things like that will drive me bananas. And Aileen has so many other things to worry about. And I get it. Like, dude, she's like doing 1,000 different things. So for her, it's like, okay, whatever, next. But when she sends it to me, and then I'll be like,
3 spaces to the right.
Maybe we have to move this way. I'm like, how about you just let me edit? She's like, edit, go. I'm like,
I've had it.
Glenda, everything is structured in Glenda's brain. And my brain is a hot mess. Like, order and structure is not a thing that works in my mind. So it's good. Like, again, the things that are so different about us, I think is what makes us work. And I would not hold back in saying negative things, like bring my husband and I will go to town. I love you dearly. My hubby, like he knows I love him furiously. But with Glenda, it's just like I can't get mad at her. It's
Same.
she's just very lovable. I want to kind of like
Fact.
barf a little right now after saying that.
Did you throw up a little in your mouth?
Yes.
Oh, why do you have to go there?
Because I'm as gross as she is.
I
That's
know.
where I fit
Seriously.
into this trifecta. Come on now.
You do, Chris.
So to say the podcast market is like an ocean of content, it's like an understatement, right?
Thank you.
In fact, in my research, because I did a little research, Aileen, okay?
Love it.
1% of podcasts make money. I don't know if everybody in the audience realizes that. Only 1%. Otherwise, it's passion projects.
Yeah.
And most are actually in the negative because it costs a lot to produce these episodes. It's not just like getting on a video call and recording it.
Well, to produce them well, especially, right? Like if you want to do them
do it
well done. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So tell us about your experience trying to monetize the surfing corporate podcast, especially for those. I've been hearing a lot of people getting out of corporate and now wanting to take this leap to the podcast verse. Can you share a little insight from both your perspectives?
Sure. I think it would take probably an entire podcast to delve into this. I think I made a lot of mistakes. I regret nothing. I regret nothing. This has been like the most fabulous thing I've ever worked on, and it's the most fulfilling by far compared to anything else I've ever done. I just went into it with a lot of heart and a lot of passion, not with a lot of background and knowing about what the podcast world was like.
Right.
So yeah, like the 1% of podcasts that monetize, and especially as indie producers, as we were, it just makes it that much more difficult. We come from legacy media. And you kind of think like, tomato. No, it's a completely different beast. The way it monetizes completely and radically different. So we learned through trial and error. I learned everything through trial and error. I made a ton of mistakes. I feel tremendously proud of the overall quality of the project, of the podcast. We put our heart and souls into it, but we went about it more as, this is gonna be awesome, and the money will follow. And it was just very, very naive. I'm speaking for me, the way I approached it. I think we hit a lot of milestones that I wasn't expecting. Like when you look at the stats of where we've ranked in the top 50 and the top 100 of like really important markets, that's mind blowing to me. But knowing how to monetize, how that works, what, the sponsorship model, all of that is so radically different than what we knew. So if you don't know the people, or if you don't have connection or not, it's, and when you're focusing on the content, the production, the part, like I just did not have the understanding or the bandwidth. So there was definitely I guess this is harder than I thought.
But, I'm going to chime in here, Aileen, because I think that you call it naive, right? You say that you were naive about it. I think I wouldn't use that word, because you always knew it was going to be really hard. We always knew it was going to be really hard. You worked your ass off. I think the distinction is that because we came from legacy media, like you were saying, we were used to getting things done in a certain way and money following in a certain way. So I think instead of being naive, I think it was more, maybe to me, the word would be overly optimistic and
I was overly say ignorant.
You know what it is? I feel like there was always, we knew it cost money. We like it's a part of the thing, yes, hosting it, and then the editing equipment, even the mics, like everything costs money. But for me, I thought about it as what you were saying is, we'll figure it out. We're so passionate about it. How could it not? How could advertisers not see the value? Because we would get such great feedback. And,
Yeah.
not just, when we first started, the very first season, when we reached out to you, Chris, and it was a lot of people we knew basically doing us favors.
In the
saying,
first
I
season,
believe in you guys. I know what you want to do. I'm in. And that was an amazing vote of confidence that people in our circle felt that there was something there. By season 2, we were getting people that we had no idea. Like, we were reaching out and they were saying yes. And we would send them the whole, pitch by email, which
the
included
trailer.
a trailer and this and that. And it was nicely packaged, and people were like, yes, I love what you're doing. I'm in. So there was always the at least from what we saw and the comments and people, we had people like those fans in Kings Bay. Was it Kings Bay, Australia? Remember that? What was the name of that town?
I love that one, Deception Bay.
Deception Bay, Australia. When we realized that someone was a fan of ours in Deception Bay, Australia.
Novella.
I was like, Deception Bay.
And Nigeria, we had people writing in from Nigeria. Like, it was mind blowing for us.
It really is, and it feels like
all over,
like you're doing something that's making a difference. So to me, that kept us going. Like, it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time. But to be fair, we were riding the wave that many people were riding at the time where the whole podcast boom was happening, and everybody wanted to get into the space, and people were throwing tons of money at people to get into podcasting and doing a whole bunch of things. And then what happened?
Celebrities too, right?
Celebrities. But there were also people with really well produced podcasts who weren't celebrities themselves, but they had really well produced podcasts with a niche and all that stuff that were getting monetized. So that was like, okay, yes, there's a path here. But then the market starts to contract. There's a pullback. The recession, is it happening? Is it not? The pandemic, like, everything starts to happen and go to shit. And then you realize that, this is much harder than we thought, because timing and because the podcast industry is still trying to figure a lot of things out. At first, just like in TV, everybody was throwing a lot of money at things. And then when that didn't work and that money wasn't returned, there was no ROI. It starts getting, the pullback starts happening. And then it's like, oh shit. Yeah. Now to get monetized, you have to have 100,000 downloads per episode. And who has downloads? Nobody downloads. You listen, you don't download. So, that's when you start to realize, okay, this is a really, really, really steep hill that we would have to continue to climb. And as much as we would love to do it, it's just, the monetization factor is just not there. So that's just the sad fact.
You also say you were calling out all of the corporate folks that, you know what I mean? Like, I would say the people that were charging the money were kind of pissed off that you were like revealing all their fucking secrets. You're like, you're empowering our employees. We see that as a problem, actually. So something that we don't do in corporate very often is talk about personal, unless it's like, by the water cooler. So it's time to get personal.
Let's get personal.
So on the personal front, so let's see what they really had to say about you guys, because I reached out to some folks. Of course, because this is a 360 feedback survey, so you need feedback. You know what I'm saying? So let's listen to some of your biggest fans.
Are you ready, Glenda?
Yes.
Are you ready for this my Taylor moment here?
Hi, I'm Monica Castillo, and I'm doing this on behalf of Glenda Packman, who I met while I was at Telemundo serving as lead on the research program. Really program. I was in the programming department. From the very first moment I met Glenda, I knew that she was highly polished, extremely professional, and one of the nicest people you would ever want to meet. Information to respect it and anything that she does. So it comes out extraordinarily well. And very, very honored and privileged to know Glenda and to call her.
How sweet is that?
Oh my God.
so touching.
When she said Glenda respects data, it just made me all warm and fuzzy.
Can we
Listen, coming from Millie
Oh my God,
Carraquillo, that is a
100%.
huge, huge thing.
100%. I'm just messing
Wow.
with you. She clearly thinks the world of you. And Millie is like not an easy person to please. Like she's very strict standards. So that is amazing. That
It's heart of
I
gold
have
also.
to
Heart of gold, that
on your
woman. That's
resume on
amazing.
LinkedIn.
Can we take that snippet?
Yes, of course. No, on LinkedIn, I think you have to wear, whatever you want me to learn at, respects data.
I'm going to put that on my shirt. Respects data. I'm
Data
a data respecter.
Oh, that was so nice of Melly. Okay, I'm gonna play this one because I think because this person talked about both of us.
My name is Marcela Valdez, and I met Glenda and Aileen at our corporate job here in Miami, Florida, almost 10 years ago, believe it or not. My first impression when I saw Aileen, because she was my boss, was that she was ridiculously cool. She had black Converse on, jeans, a really cool white shirt. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is exactly the opposite of what I expected that I was going to get as a boss in a big corporation, media corporation at that. But her very, very first email to me involved a cat with laser eyes. And I could not stop laughing. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe I finally found someone that's just as dead inside as I am. So we obviously, besides her being an amazing mentor and boss, we absolutely bonded and became fast friends. And with Miss Glenda, she was always super proper, Miss Corporate Navigator, the best of the best. But one thing that I will never forget about Glenda is that it didn't matter how heated a business meeting could get or how stressed we were for a deadline. She always, always, always had a positive outlook and rallied her team to be just as positive as she was. So it was really like a super pleasant environment to work in because you knew that you could count on her, not only just to make you feel better, but also you wanted to get the job done because you wanted her to be, impressed and happy, and you didn't want to let her down. So absolutely amazing people. And can't wait to see what they do next.
Oh.
Is that right?
That was so fucking
She's the
kind
best.
and sweet and beautiful. And isn't that incredible? Thank you for this, Chris. Thank you. This was so sweet.
I have to say, like, you guys, when we did our first episode, it was about authenticity at work, right? Because it was kind of a rare. And, and listening to all the messages that we had received so far, I was just sort of like, wow, I'm not the only, like, you guys, everything people said about you, there is something to be said for consistency. And for two people to be so unique, uniquely different and beautifully different, and yet just be this puzzle. Everything that everyone feels and says about you, including what you feel and say about each other, is just so magically, like, exactly how you show up. Such a rare quality, to be honest. And I know we're going to get even better ones. Like, I mean, these are all phenomenal, but like, I think they're just going to get better and better. And I don't think we're going to hear anything different. I think that's
so sweet.
What you see is what you get. Hold on. Yeah. I like to build on this authenticity piece. I need to get a little bit more wine and I'll be right back.
Go grab a can. Go grab a can. Go for it. Go for it.
Did we have a wardrobe change when you got your 6
No,
wine?
She took off the jacket.
My sweater because I was getting hot and flustered.
Hot, it's getting hot in here.
Are we ready?
Ready.
We are.
Toast, ladies.
Toast.
Ching.
Love you guys.
You. Okay. It's time. My favorite part of every one of your podcasts. It's time for corporate confessions.
Yes.
But we're going to flip it on its head and do podcast confessions.
Woo!
Okay.
Are you ladies ready?
We are.
Ready.
Who was your most favorite guest? Present company excluded.
Okay, I'll
know the real answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the answer, Chris. Come on, that's the answer.
Truthfully, we've had just such a great selection of guests. Like every single guest has been, this sounds very corporate-y, but it's true, people that we've learned from so much. I feel very, very lucky to have landed every single person that has been on the show. If you put me in this hard position of choosing like what my favorite one has been, I think I would have to say personally, Susana Salabosh. She was the one for the episode about navigating corporate America when you're a foreigner. And I think basically because it resonated so much with me because I landed in corporate America at my late 30s. So there were a lot of similarities and things I could connect to when she spoke about her experience. And I also love that she's a person that you can tell is just such a badass, and she knows so much about leading teams. Like she's a total badass, but she also managed to sway between amazing sense of humor and then like leave you with really profound reflections about corporate life and about the choices that you make. So that episode really struck a chord with me. Both in the English, we did 2 versions. That was the only episode that we did an English and Spanish version. And both were fabulous and different in, you know, their essence, but they just, I don't know, I had to take a moment after those episodes to kind of like digest what she was saying and just feel all the feels as a person that has been through kind of that same kind of dynamic. So that was special because of that for me.
I love that.
Yeah, and
It's personal to you. I mean, it was like,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Right?
And I think it's hard because, like Aileen said, you know, we've been so blessed and so fortunate to have the caliber of people that we've had on the show, and I've learned a little something from each person.
Yeah.
So, you know, I am a corporate animal at heart, Chris. So there's no way I'm going to answer a fucking question that says who's my favorite. There's no way I'm going to do that. No, it's like picking a kid. No, I'm not going to do that. No, got to keep it open. There are so many people that I loved.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not gonna pick a
Well,
favorite.
see, this is the difference between the two of us.
Yes.
And
But
this
I can ask a question. I can up her on this though, Aileen.
Go for
Okay.
it.
What was the greatest lesson that you learned from one of the
Okay,
podcasts?
so
Okay.
that, yes.
Go.
Okay.
A ton of lessons, so many lessons. But Aileen spoke about Susana Salabash. And she spoke about it from the perspective of she resonated with her because she lived that same experience. And as I mentioned in the episodes, both the one we did in English and the one we did in Spanish, I had a very different experience because I've only known corporate in the United States. I've never come in from the international side, having worked on an international company. But I resonated so deeply with something she said that was articulated in such a way that I hadn't heard before. And that's that when you work, you have to pay toll. There's like emotional toll you have to pay. Un peaje emocional. Like there's, and basically what that means, and that means something different to everybody, but it means something to everybody. It means what's the trade-off? What are you giving up in order to get something else? And it's not to say it's bad. It's not to put a judgment on it. It's just to recognize that you do have to give up certain things. And for me, that resonated by being a working mom. And that resonated with me with spending time at work when I could have been doing something else. Having, you know, when my oldest was 2 years old, I came home one day and I was very blessed, extremely blessed that my aunt was the one who took care of both of my kids when they were little, and I was working full time, crazy hours, you know, insane job. So I was very blessed that she would come to my house. So she was like their other grandma. But I will never, ever, ever in my life forget coming home one day. My daughter was 2. And her crying at the door, literally not leaving the door because my aunt was leaving and saying, no, you stay, mommy, go. Like, you go. I want you to stay. And my heart dropped. Like I felt like I was cut into 1,000 different pieces. So to me, that was the trade-off.
Did you say?
Yeah.
What
you
did I say? I said, no, Mama, she's okay. She's going to be back tomorrow. Mommy's here. It's okay. It's okay. And my aunt was, great. She's like, don't worry, Gorda. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. And then she calmed down after a little while. But at that age, you don't understand. Like, you don't get it. She wasn't doing it to hurt me. She wasn't like,
No.
it's just that reaction that as a toddler you get. And when you have the working mom guilt and you have that shit already on top of you and you see it and you get that display, you're like, I don't love this. So when Susana said that, even though I didn't come from the same perspective at it, I came from absolutely a universal perspective of I gave something else up.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up, being a stay-at-home mom where I was the one that took care of my kids, like, 24/7. And mind you, I don't regret it. And now I look back and my daughters both recognize that my career is very important to me. And being a working mom is something that I had to make work somehow. And, they respect it. They love it. They're proud of me for it. But that to me was the big lesson that articulated in the way that Susana did cut so deep because I felt that. And I knew that was one of those things that even though she was saying it from her perspective and she felt it from her perspective, and Aileen, you felt it from yours. Yeah. Anybody that listened to her at that moment could relate from their own, which I thought was so powerful.
Emotional.
So everyone needs to listen to that episode.
100%. That is like the episode that for me, I think, like you said, Glenda, like regardless if you're a foreigner or not, I think that the things that she is able to, I don't know, vocalize, to put into words are things that you have floating around, but the way she was able to synthesize those thoughts was just like, I don't know. It was a connection at an emotional level that, I don't know, there was something different about that episode for me. And ironically, after her episode, Chris, was your episode. And she listened to it and she wrote on Instagram, she's like, you need to listen to this episode and everything Christine has to say. So I found that fascinating. Isn't that interesting, Glenda? Like,
I love that. Yeah. It's because it goes to having people who speak truthfully about their experiences and how that connects no matter where you come from. Because as humans, we go through, we go through the same emotions. Maybe they're not the same experiences and we don't have the same backstories or the same backgrounds. But as humans, we live through the same shit. And that's the unifying thing about working in corporate life, that there are so many great things about it. And we say this all the time. We never set out to make a podcast to shit on corporate. That is completely wrong.
Yes.
We set out to make a podcast to talk honestly about it. And honesty talks about things that are not so great often, things that are maybe not so pretty and things that can't be glossed over in a corporate press release, but that's what corporate life is. So,
and how do you make the most of it? And be aware of those trade-offs and those tolls. And just like the more you are aware and consciously aware of the things that happen, the more you will have the right tools to navigate and to proceed with caution. This is about making the most of something that you're in and how to take action and take agency about your career, because
I thought of surfing corporate as trying to make the corporate world a better place to exist within, because it takes so much of our lives.
Yes.
That if we could just be smarter and better and show up more humanely to each other and as leaders, and giving us the perspective to understand that you are dealing with humans and you are dealing with people with very, varying degrees of commitments outside of the office.
Yes.
That if we can approach it more humanely, then it would be better for all of us, because we're all in it together. So
absolutely.
That to me was the mission of surfing corporate. Said or unsaid doesn't matter, but I think that that's what I always took away from it. Yeah, that was a little bit of poking fun because we're all self-deprecating. We should all laugh at ourselves.
Yes.
I sound like an idiot in more meetings than I ever wanted to be, but I feel like it was a very noble mission, and I think you guys really succeeded at it. You brought humanity to leadership. You brought authenticity to the voices of the people in it who don't have the power to say what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And anyone that was listening, that was in a position of leadership to impact change, you gave them tools. You gave them insight.
Thank you, Chris. That's what
They
we.
really
That's what
listen.
we. That's
Set
what
out
They
we.
really
to do.
listen.
That was the goal. That's what we set out to do. But thank you for
And you
that.
know, and just one thing I want to add to that, because as people that have been in the corporate ringer, like all of us, when you're in that machine and when you're working so many hours and you're in so many meetings and you don't have a minute to take a moment, breathe, analyze. So when I was in all of that madness and doing my absolute best, but now that I'm removed from that, and this throughout serving corporate is when we've researched so much and we've dived into, what the theory says, what the organizational psychologist said, what the research says, and that's when you kind of see, oh, okay, so what I was feeling on an emotional level, here is how it's described from a research level and a science level, and this is how you can better use these things to understand this other. I did not have the time to, I don't know, maybe other people do, but in my job I didn't have like, oh, let's set this time to look at what the Harvard visit, like that did not happen for me because there was in any case, there was so much information that I don't have the time to curate so
Right.
being able to provide those insights to what at least we thought was helpful or insightful at a certain moment in time. And here's all the research that we found that, you can utilize in an actionable way with your teams, with your boss, with your employees. That is something that I wished I had in the days that I was in the middle of that struggle. So that's kind of what we were trying to do, and always with a spin of humor and levity and joy, because I firmly believe that the more you can enjoy your work, the better the work you're going to do, the more engaged you're going to be.
Yep.
And the more real you are as a leader, the more the people that surround you are going to believe in you and see you as a human being and not this unattainable version of bullshit. I understand that people can see that absolutely differently. That was my reality, and that was the leaders that I gravitated towards, and I could not have been different even if I had tried, because that's just who I am, and I feel that builds trust. And we are not, even the CEO is not a perfect person, and they have insecurities and they have imposter syndrome. And being able to own that and say, I don't know, and I'm not sure what's going on right now, I need your help. I think that just benefits the world in general. But anyway, I'm
And
getting off
they
my
fart
soapbox.
in their office.